Welcome to the journey of an entrepreneur. I'm Ryan Batts, founder of Teacher Under Pressure, and this podcast is all about the highs, the lows, and lessons of entrepreneurship. I'll share my own personal journey, going over the wins, the struggles, and the mindset shifts that made the difference. But I'll also bring in other entrepreneurs, leaders, and go-getters to share their stories. If you're looking for real conversations about business, life, and pushing through challenges, you're in the right place. Let's go get it. I'm your host, Ryan Batts, and I have a very special guest today, Brittany Kinsmo, who is a realtor, a speaker, and one of your biggest cheerleaders. I can speak to that personally. She has spent her entire life saying yes to opportunity, never letting the fear of failure stop her. She has scaled from teacher to successful business owner to top producing realtor, short-term rental guru, and now adds keynote speaker to her resume. As someone who has repeatedly embraced her authenticity to create a personal brand, to create and connect with her community to build and scale her businesses, Brittany has built multiple businesses by creating a community of superfans. She understands that not being everyone's cup of tea is her superpower and the exact mindset needed to grow her business. To be successful in today's world, Brittany believes you have to be on PAR, personal, authentic, and relatable. When not working, Brittany loves spending time with her husband and 3 boys. You can oftentimes find her at baseball fields, cheering on her children, or cheering on her Wolfpack at NC State. Go Pack, that's right. Regardless of who, Brittany will always be in your courting, cheering you on. She is, in fact, your biggest cheerleader. Awesome, Brittany. Well, thank you so much. We talked earlier, but thank you again for being here. I know you're super busy, obviously, off of just reading that. So I know how it is to carve out an hour of your time. So thanks for being here.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me. I appreciate the offer.
Yeah, for sure. And I can attest again, Brittany will be your biggest cheerleader. Backstory, Brittany actually was my first house that Teacher Under Pressure, our business, officially did, other than, like family members and neighbors. So she was, she gave us the start, and I always tell the story because we've put it out a lot, but it took me 2 days to do it. And I really had no idea what I was getting into. And after that experience, I was like, well, what am I really getting into? Is it worth it? But yeah, so obviously she has like a special place in my heart because she gave us a chance and gave us that opportunity. So yeah. And with that being said, can you just kind of go through, and we do have a similar background. You were a teacher, you went to the entrepreneurship, same thing here. Can you kind of take me on that journey back to where you were a teacher and then you decided maybe, I'm not sure, maybe you just saw opportunity, or you saw a more clear path in another direction. Just kind of take us back to where that began and the transition from teacher to being an entrepreneur.
Yeah, absolutely. So I was in the high school classroom for 5 or 6 years, but I also was a coach. So I taught and I coached for about 10. And about halfway through that, I actually, I had an opportunity presented to me at the time. One of my athletes, her parents were sitting next to me at the basketball game, like we were doing 3 nights a week, every night for however many years. And they said, how do you think like a cheer gym would do? And I was like, oh, I think it'd be great. There's not much in the area like it. There's one, but it's like, 30, 45 minutes away, but there was nothing local to our town. And they were like, well, this is something we've been toying with for a little bit. We think we want to start one. Would you be interested in being like the program director? And I was like, yes, please sign me up. But I said, before that, let me go chat with my better half and see what my husband thinks. And he's actually very entrepreneurial minded and very forward thinking. And he said, yeah, you know what, if we're going to do this, you're not just going to be like the director. We're going in halfsies. Like this will be a true partnership. And that's what we actually ended up doing. We went in as a partnership. So we went in kind of like a 50-50, but it was also at the same time. This is not advice for most people, but I was pregnant with my first child. So I was like, oh, also surprise. So for me, actually stopping in the classroom was going to be a path that I was going to take regardless, because being pregnant, I could either teach in the classroom and then pay essentially my entire paycheck to go to daycare, or I could stay at home with my children. And so for me, that was an easy balance for me to say, like, okay, I'm going to stop teaching. I was teaching online also. I have always had like multiple jobs all at once. It's like been my shtick since high school. It's fine. But I was teaching online with the NC Virtual Public Schools. So to stop in the classroom, I kept coaching, and then we opened up our business. And essentially what we said is like, what's the worst that could happen? We all still had day jobs. And so we were like, well, we open it, we try it. What is the minimum number we need to succeed? That shouldn't be everybody's bar, but we're like, what's the minimum? If we can get 32 kids in, we are good. We're like, all right, I think we could do 32 kids, not a problem. And so the opportunity itself came from somebody else. It came from somebody being like, hey, I've seen how you run your I'm gonna call it my business, my cheer program. I think you'd be a good fit for this. They saw like my work ethic and how I operate. And it was one of those like, what's the worst that can happen? Sure. All right, let's try it. If it doesn't work, then we close the doors or we don't. But we actually, so we've always kind of taken the step of like, should we, could we, do we? Sure. Can we survive the worst? Yes. Then it's okay. Then it's worth like, if we can do this, what about this? What if it goes to here? So stopping in the classroom for you, I know it was more like, this is a hard stop for me. It was kind of a blended stop because I stopped in the classroom, but I still have like my safety net of teaching online. But then as that business grew, so did my family. 5 years in, it was either like, we either need to be here more and make decisions and be hand-on because I always laugh. People are like, oh, you own your own business. It's so sweet. That must be so fun. You get to have your own schedule. I'm like, no, you're never off. Like 24/7, 367, like more days than even there are in the year. You were always on. There's not a break. And so for us in a brick and mortar business, it was we either needed to be there more or be there less. And I loved being a cheer coach. I loved being a business owner. We owned a competitive gym. We had over 300 athletes. Like it was a staple in our community and something that I was very proud of. Still am very proud of. But I was also ready to like cheer on my own children at that point in time. So at the point where we were like, oh, it's kind of like, are you going to scale? Are you going to grow and expand? Or are you going to like step back? And that's kind of where we were. And I was okay to be like, okay, you know what? It is great to like pass off the reins. We have built it. They have come. And we're going to pass off the reins. And it was funny because my husband used to always say like, you should get into real estate. And I was like, let's talk about when that's going to happen. When would we have time? We have 3 children, like back to back to back. We own a business. When would I also get my license? But then as we were transitioning out of the cheer gym, I kind of got my real estate license as well. And again, it wasn't me being like, oh, I should get into this. It was somebody else seeing something in me, and like a spark that like encouraged me. And I've always been, I'm not going to say I love to fail, but I love to put myself in an opportunity because I don't think there's any such thing as failing. I think you fail forward. I think you grow. Yeah. And so like, if I know that I can succeed even at the bottom level, I'm always like, dude, the options are endless, right? The sky's the limit. So I think I'm a big believer, like what you put out into the world, you get back. When you put out hard work, when you put out positivity, when you put out good things, those will also get recognized. So I genuinely think I wasn't searching for entrepreneurship. I think I married an entrepreneurial man who has encouraged me along the way, like saw traits in myself that I didn't see. And I love to teach and coach. And I think that was a really an important part of entrepreneurship is teaching and coaching and balancing schedules and balancing emotions and balancing everything. I mean, you've seen it. We're used to like, we both were high school emotions and high school everything and what you have to deal with. I'm like, buyers and sellers, not a problem. Like I can do this. No, no sweat off my back because we're used to juggling all the things. And so I think entrepreneurs, you have to be dedicated to show up every day. You have to be organized. And you have to be a team player too. It's also solopreneur. So just got to make sure you actually get it together. But it was a neat journey for me. It wasn't as cut and dry. I think I didn't have this like vision of like, this is what I should do. It was other people seeing something in me that I was like, I think I could.
Yeah.
And even if I don't, I can always go back to teaching. I can always go back to do something different. What's the worst that can happen? Cool. What's the best that can happen? I'm here for that.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of things to take away from that. I think what I'll first kind of go into is I met with you because I was in that thought process, like, do I transition? Because,
Hmm.
there's just like you, I've got kids, I've got a mortgage, I have a wife. I had my safety net, right?
Yeah.
I had the business that was growing, but I had my safety net, which I knew was there. It's all the time, long term, and there's benefits that come with that for having that safety net. So it was very. I think that's the hardest part for a lot of people is taking that away and going all in. So it was scary. So what for you? Gives you the ability, do you think, to swing for the fences and strike out? Because so many people are scared just to take that swing, right? They're afraid to meet that opportunity when it's there.
Yeah.
What do you
So I
think?
think
Yeah,
I think it's a blend of character traits and circumstance. I think I know myself, and I know that if I'm putting myself on the line, if I'm going to put my name on something, I know I'm going to show up for it. I know I'm going to do it, and I know I'm going to do it to a level that I would want somebody else to do it for me. So I'm not going to show up and just like halfway do a job. I'm going to go and I'm going to grind and I'm going to hustle until I can make that work. So I know like, and I mean, y'all listen, entrepreneurship, especially especially like real estate, like if we don't show up, we don't get paid. That's hard. That is the scariest thing for people when you get into any type of commission-based job, any type of self-employment is like you don't show up, you don't get paid. And sometimes you can manifest and you can work as hard as you want, but I can't manifest a buyer for a client. I can't make the clients show up, right? So you just have to hope that the sales happen. So the safety net that we talk about, that is something that is very real. I was blessed in the sense of when we first opened our gym, a brick and mortar, we owned a building, we all still had full-time jobs. So
yeah,
even if the business itself did not work, we still had full-time jobs to support that paycheck. When we sold our business and I got into real estate, my husband still had a full-time job. So we still had like a safety net
yeah,
where it's okay if my levels were kind of going up and down. So it is very easy to say like you just have to put forth and try, but also knowing like it is okay if I didn't have a closing that month because we knew we still had our safety net. And that's very much too why my husband would love nothing more than to be a full-time agent. But we're like, oh, that's still a good safety net to have.
yeah,
So I think what always gives me the guts to swing for the fences is I know I've got my family. I know we've built a foundation now where it's secure. But I also know like I'm not gonna halfway swing. Like I've got big picture visions right now, but I haven't attached them yet. I have not gone after them yet because I'm like, I'm gonna like bunt. I don't want to lay down a bunt when I try to
yeah,
do something. Like if I'm gonna go, I'm gonna go. And so when I do, I'm ready for it. And I think it's funny. I had lunch with my brother the other day, and as we're leaving, I was on my way to an appointment, a listing appointment. He goes, "Hope it goes well." I was like, "It will. I know it will." And I was like, "That's not being cocky. That's me just being confident. Like you have to be
yeah.
confident in your
You put the
skills,
reps in. Yeah, I get it.
right?
Yeah,
Like that's part of it. Like in order to be open to succeeding, you have to have faith in that, right? So
yeah.
I think it's a blend of characteristics and circumstance. I think.
Where do you think those characteristics came from? You think you're just born with them, or you think that's like something that's been installed from like maybe cheer or like?
Yes, and I do think it's something I was born with, in the sense of I don't mind being, like growing up, we had like a little small square tile landing space, like when you open the door, and I would sit there and like tap dance all day and like, oh, look at me go, mom, and like always put on a show for my mom and dad. So like putting on a show, being in front, like public speaking, real estate, owning a gym, those are all forward facing things. I have no qualms being in front of people, speaking in front of people, and sharing whatever business it is.
Yeah.
But I think, I genuinely think athletics teaches you so many wonderful skills.
Hmm.
And not even just athletics, being a part of anything. So even if you're in like chorus or band or like theater or anything like that, being a part of a group, anything, it teaches you time management, hard work, dedication, showing up, how to be a team player, self management. Like there's so many qualities that as an athlete, you have to have in order to be successful. And I think so many of those are applicable, um, in the business world. And the other part is, and Ryan, I don't know if you've kind of felt the same way or seen this with others as well. A lot of people often think being self-employed is so nice. Like I said, you can do your own schedule, but they often think like, I don't have to show up every day. You do. Like you show up every
Well,
day.
you don't have
You
to,
have
but you won't get paid.
exactly. But like you have to put in the work every day, even
Yeah,
when nobody's looking. And that's part of the hard part is people give up before it gets going, right? Like growth happens outside of our comfort zone. And some people just don't want to get uncomfortable.
100%. Yeah. Yeah, you're so right. You got to show up every day, and it's not easy.
No.
That's definitely right. Yeah, I think that's the thing, right? It's like just, as long as you don't give up and you consistently work
Hmm.
toward that goal you have, I don't know. I think that's the kind of like a solid recipe right there. But I
Well,
think
I
you're
think
right. Yeah,
when
people
you
just
show up and you're
give up.
consistent, that lets people know like I can count on you. I can trust on you. I know like when I call on you and I schedule, I know you're showing up. I know you're on time. I know you're checking in with my customers to make sure like client satisfaction was good. I see your signs everywhere like you show up.
Yeah.
You have like when you're consistent, it lets people know like, hey, I can trust you. And knowing what services you offer and that we're not everybody's cup of tea, I think is a really, I always joke with that, like literally as I have a cup of tea in my hand. I always joke about that because I'm like, we are not everybody's ideal person. And
Yeah.
if I got sad every time somebody didn't like my product,
Yeah.
no,
Yeah. And it's hard at first, for sure. I mean, I know I would take it personal or
we all do.
yeah, I know. Yeah. But you're right. To be more niche and to
Mhm.
understand your avatar is like you have to understand that.
Yeah.
Because if not, you'll just be saying yes to many things and
Mhm.
you won't have a
Well,
clear picture.
and that's what I say too, because it's when you say yes to everything, it is
It's
just like
draining.
draining on your time and your energy. And you've got
Yeah.
young kids, I've got young kids. Like I'm going to be at the ball field. I'm going to be at the
Yeah.
thing. I want to show up for those we want to show up to. That's the other hard part. God bless. That's the other hard part is the
Yeah,
time
no.
balance.
Yeah. Especially for you. I mean, me too, because we're kind of like people pleasers. So sometimes
Mhm.
it's like we feel bad. And I
Yeah.
know I feel bad. But
But you know what though? I have found such beauty in like saying no to things because I'm like, I want to say yes. I want to
yeah.
show up for you. I want to cheer you on. But like, if
Yeah.
it doesn't align with like my vision and my goals, I'm going to bless and release. I'm going to say no because saying no to the one thing has now opened up the opportunity for a great yes.
Mm-hmm.
And that like mindset switch has like healthily let me move on as we're
Yeah.
nearing this next stage of life.
And you just mentioned vision and goals. I know you and your husband, well, y'all are a team, which is
Mhm.
awesome, but you have pretty clear like goal setting times and vision. Can you kind of take us through like, are you doing like, 1, 3, 5, 10 year visions or like what does your vision board look like? What does your goal setting look like?
Absolutely. So we actually started 6 years ago. We started doing like self-guided, essentially goal planning retreats, where after Christmas and in between New Year's, we get away because we're like, okay, I can like wrap up mentally the year and then start to dream for the next year. Like, what do we want to accomplish? What do we want to do? And we do a little bit of both. We do the 1, 3, 5 and retirement. Like he knows, here's our net number. This is what we're working back towards, and this is what we need to retire. So he knows like here's our like net worth. This is what we need. This is where we are when we retire. Where are we along the process? And what that does is allows us to make decisions based upon that. Like, does this align with this? Is showing up on a podcast going to help me with my goal of public speaking? Sure. So then I'm going to say yes. Is it doing something else? That's not really. So then I'm going to say no to that. So it really has led us, one, it is, I joke as a teacher, we had meetings galore. You have professional development meetings, you have staff meetings, you have all of these quarterly meetings and benchmarks and like checking in. How are we doing? But often in life, we don't do that. We don't do that with our family. We don't do that with our marriage. We don't do any of that. And I was like, why would I leave my leftovers? Why would I be so focused and organized at work, but like my family get my leftovers and we're just kind of flying by the seat of our pants? Vision goal setting and like vision boarding, if you will, allows us to do things that allows us to kind of just dream big and say like, hey, this would be great if, or what are our goals? What are things that like make us happy? And then through our marriage, because we have been business partners essentially 10 of our 15 years of marriage, in sense of like when we started, um, it allows us to play on an even playing field and support each other when we need to and know like, hey, I've got my head down and I'm grinding right now for X, Y, and Z. We're like, hey, that remember that doesn't support the vision. So maybe we say no to that for right now. But it's important because otherwise we end up saying yes to too much and we end up not owning our time. And our time is our most valuable and most precious resource. We don't get it back. I mean, I can work and work and work. And I'm a worker. I, like in high school, had 2, 3 jobs at a time just because I like to.
Yeah.
But as of recently, like the last 3 years, we had like a shift in our family that I lost somebody very close to me, and I was like, you know what, time isn't guaranteed, and I can work and make more money, but what for?
Yeah.
If it's at a cost for like missing my children's games or not being able to go to things, why am I work like there's no point in that. So keeping your like your main focus on your vision board, whatever that may be, like that's the whole reason why we show up.
Gotcha. So, I mean, first of all, I love that. I've done that as well. Put time, it being the most valuable thing because, kids grow up fast. You miss a lot of
Yeah,
stuff. I mean, it's just not worth it. I mean, that's how I was at first, in which I'm saying, you probably have to do that if you're starting something from scratch. Like there's a lot of time you have to
absolutely.
put into something. Yeah. Because it's, you're building a foundation for
Building.
something.
You're
Yeah,
building.
exactly. But now it's more about who, not how,
Oh,
kind
that's
of.
such a good book.
Yeah, that is a good book. So with the time, how like are you like a decision comes up? How are you making that decision to where your time goes? Or is there like a thought process that goes with that? Are you doing like pros and cons? Like how are you deciding?
Do you cuss on your podcast?
Yeah, that's fine.
So our this is like my husband's favorite saying. It's either hell yes or hell no.
Okay.
It is one like if it excites you, it should be yes. If it really makes you pause and like you have to think about it, that's kind of your answer right there. So that's kind of
Gotcha.
like our leading how we decide.
Okay.
And then it really is just like it's not always no, like everybody's like, well, what's your hourly rate? Could you hire it out? Could you do something else? Like yes, and but it's not always the rate. Like, are you getting something else valuable out of it?
Yeah.
Is there something that does, you just have to really weigh, like, does this align with what I'm trying to do as a family, as a professional, as a woman, as a leader, as a whatever?
Hmm.
Does it fit in one of those lanes? And it's a yes, then it's a yes. And I swear to Buddha, we live by like Google Calendar. If I couldn't sync up my calendar, my children would be left at carpool quite a bit because the balance now that we are like my husband still has a W-2, but he also, is has his real estate license. He coaches all the baseball teams. Like we are juggling. Like he's already in carpool 20 minutes early because they're going to baseball right after. Like the amount of juggling. So some of it, that's the other thing too that I put on my vision board, and I feel like you would appreciate this, is to say no more.
Yeah.
Because I will, if I have 20 minutes, I'll fill the schedule. But like mama needs a break sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, yeah, I bet some people will just kind of, I mean, you're big on social media. You put yourself out there a lot, which is awesome because for first of all, it's building your brand, showing people who you are, what you
Mhm.
represent. But I mean, people probably wonder like, how the hell does she do this? She's like super
Okay, so
mom, super realtor, entrepreneur. So I
you
mean,
know,
what would you say to that person? How do you? I mean, you kind of mentioned it with the calendar, but how,
so
how
I,
do you
you know
make
what
it
I say?
happen?
'Cause it is a very big I'm not gonna say like a compliment, but like I take it to heart because I actually get asked that a lot. Like, I don't know how you do it all. You're Superwoman. I'm like, I'm actually not. My response is I say some days better than others.
Yeah.
Like some days I'm on it and I feel like, yes,
Mm,
conquered the world. Good job. And there are some days where I'm just like, I dropped the ball. Like, I mean, the thing is I show up on social media because I feel like that's a great space for people to get to know me on their own time. And that way, when it does come time for us to work together, partner together, you already feel like you know me. We're
yeah.
big, like I said, we're big on sports. And my one of my keynotes is about being on par because I was like, we were in golf. Like that was our thing. I'm like, you have to be personable, authentic, and relatable. Those are 3 big factors. And so what you will find if you go on my social media is like, I will share my wins, but I will also share my losses. I will say like, hey, I messed up this day. Hey, I like my kid was late to, I almost forgot the birthday party he was so excited to go to because there was too many, I was balancing too many things and I dropped the ball. Like I am very, open to sharing when I mess up, because because social media is where I show up, I don't want people to have like a false um, pretense of what it is like to partner with me. Also, when I show up in a ball cap, you're not like, oh, she's so unprofessional. I just came from a ball field, and you get it.
Yeah.
And so I think sharing with people wins and losses, because I don't do it all. I mean, I have great support system. Like my brother or my sister-in-law will pick my kids up when I need to, because they're both local. Like our parents trip in a lot. You have to have in this business, when when you are an entrepreneur, you have to have a good support system. Like you can't go at it alone. It just doesn't, you can't survive that. And so I always say, like, I do it all, but I also don't do it all well. So some days are better than others. And that's just the truth of the matter. Like some days we win and some days we fail forward.
Yeah, for sure. I know. I think so many people get to false realization when they see the highlight reels of everything on
Yeah.
social media. What gave you
And
that idea to kind of be just
on
you?
social media.
Yeah, just like to be, be vulnerable. I don't know. That's kind of hard for a lot of people, I think.
So I think my comfort levels started earlier than other people's. So first of all, Ryan, when we got on social media, like it was not social media like it is today, right? Like it started when we were in college, you had to have a college account.
Yeah.
But when I started like 10 years ago, 11, I guess, years ago now, I essentially started showing up on social media for my family, right? Because I had family in Texas. We had a newborn. Like I wanted them to see and be a part of, I wanted them to see Carter grow up. I wanted them to see our children grow up. And it was something that I just did. I'm talking about like first child. I had to like post it 365 days. It was like day 1 of Carter Daniels, day 2, day 300. My poor third child was like, nope, I
Yeah.
don't have time for that. Too tired, can't post. But like, so my like, I can show up and share my family on social started for a different reason for me. When we opened our cheer gym, I was big on that was like how we marketed and how we connected with our families. So for me, it was very much a marketing approach. And listen, again, it was a cheer gym. I was in leggings and a tank top and a messy bun, and like we'd been in the gym forever. Like I showed up as myself. And I found like that's what people actually relate to. I read Mark Schaefer's The Marketing Rebellion, essentially talks about like the most human person wins. People
Mm-hmm.
know 10 realtors, people know 3 pressure washers, but the person that you know, like, and trust the best, that's probably who you're going to refer. Even if you never use me to sell a house, you're going to refer me. Like I want to create like raving fans. Like they truly, genuinely know my heart and soul,
Yeah.
and they're going to refer me out. And if I'm not their cup of tea, they're not going to, which is totally fine. But I think I find so much human connection in sharing the vulnerable parts. Like I have shared all of our wins. I have shared grief. I have shared miscarriages. I have shared so many things because I actually was just on a panel about this the other day. I said, if I can connect with somebody in some way, shape, or form, especially with moms, we've got a lot on our plates as moms. If I can connect with somebody and say, like, it's okay, I have been there too. You are not alone. Then I feel like my job, like my message has been heard and I have helped somebody else. If I can make you laugh, cry, what's the Jimmy V quote? You should laugh, you should cry, you should, like you should do all these things. If I can get you to experience emotion in some way, shape, or form, that's always my goal. My goal is not to sell you a house. I mean, sure, it helps, right? My goal is just like human connection. And I find the more authentic we are, that's what people relate to. The whole like closing deals in high heels, I'm like, that's not me. That is not who I am.
Yeah.
Nothing wrong with it, but that's not me. So I want
Have
you
you
to
gotten
connect and relate to me.
have you gotten a lot of messages from people you don't even know that
Mhm.
maybe follow you or listening? Yeah. Isn't that always a great feeling? Like
Mhm.
it really is. I know.
It
Like
is.
I don't think anybody listened to this podcast at all. And like Diana was it's right beside y'all's
Mhm.
office, the box store. And the
Oh,
kid
yeah,
there was
yeah.
like, yeah,
Harrison, he's a
he like
great.
looked at the last name. It's like, oh, Ryan Batts. I listen to his podcast. He helps me out a lot. It's like,
Yeah.
nice.
Harrison's a great dude.
Yeah,
He
it's like
owns the box store. It's
someone
great.
actually, for one, someone listens, and two, actually helps someone out.
Seriously. So that's the beauty of it. I actually read, I am rereading Mitch Albom's Tuesdays with Maury, and there was a quote in there that was like, teachers have like a lasting impression that they just don't even know. Like your footprint and the ripples that we make like cause waves later. And I feel like that's how it is in entrepreneurship.
Yeah.
Like you make impacts of people that you don't necessarily know. And it's really neat to do that. Like we've been, my family jokes are like, I can't take you anywhere. We've been in like Dollywood, we've been in Disney, and people are like coming up like, oh my gosh, I'm so excited. And they're like, what in the world?
Oh,
I'm
that's
like,
funny.
that's the goal. Like when people, that's when I feel like not like, ooh, we've made it, but that's when I'm
Yeah.
like, we've made it in the sense of like, we've made a connection and like we have impacted somebody in a really great way. Like what you're sharing is inspiring to others and giving people like faith and inspiration. Like I can take a chance.
Yeah, for sure. And shout out that you just gave Dollywood a
Right.
shout out.
Listen, we are a
Bro, I
fun
love
family.
Dollywood. Yeah, I have family near there, so it's like a special place. But
It
it's awesome.
really is. We
Yeah.
we have more investment properties now centered around Dollywood than we do in North Carolina.
Oh,
So
really?
yeah.
Yeah, we actually went to Pigeon Forge. Is that where a lot of your stuff is around that area?
Yep. So they are all in the Gatlinburg Pigeon Forge. So it's like Sevierville. It's like saying Raleigh, but it's like Holly Springs or Apex. So Sevierville is the county, but
Okay.
then Pigeon Forge and Gatlinburg. And so Dollywood is like right here. So we've
Yep.
got Gatlinburg and Pigeon Forge, and they're both.
How'd you come up with that area, or how'd that even begin?
So fun fact. Again, when you're always looking for opportunity,
Yeah.
opportunity will find itself.
Yeah.
We were taking our cheerleaders. We had a competition out in Tennessee, and it was out that way. And so we took 5 or 6 teams. We had a bunch of our staff out there as well, and we were taking the coaches out to Paula Deen's for dinner. We thought it'd be like a fun experience to go to Paula Deen's. It was like a random Wednesday in like March, like not even peak season, just off season, off, and it was like a 2 hour wait. And Andy was like, seriously, it's a 2 hour wait. She said, oh, honey, it is always like this. Like it's like 4 hours normally. And he said, tell me more.
Oh,
And we
yeah.
were like looking, I think we like reached out to an agent because I wasn't even a real estate agent at that time. We reached out to an agent like that next week. Like we were
Wow.
looking at places because for what we do at short-term investment properties, you always want to get near like national parks, vacation spots. They always have conventions and stuff. Like it's just like the trifecta over there. But it all started from a cheer competition.
That's funny.
Yep.
Yeah, it's funny how, yeah, everything leads to the next.
Yeah.
But yeah, we went there for the first time. It reminded me of like of Myrtle Beach or something. The way,
I
yeah,
always
yeah, like a
I say it
mountain
with love. I'm
community.
like, it's the Myrtle Beach of the mountains.
Yeah, that's what it reminded me. It was cool though. I mean, there's a
It's
lot
fun.
going on. I mean, yeah, there's a ton going on. Dollywood is closed. We went to like the ski resort that's in Gatlinburg.
Yeah. There's a
It was
ton.
fun. It really
There's a
was.
ton.
Yeah, awesome. All right, let me see. I mean, we could have so much else we could talk about. I don't want to take too much of your time. Give me some. You know, I'm assuming some people are listening, maybe, and
Fingers crossed.
yeah, someone thinking about starting up, just like this needs a little push. Like, what kind of encouragement? What would you tell that person?
I would tell them a couple things. The first, I would say, learn everything you can, listen to everything you can, but you have to still take action. Imperfect action is better than no action at all,
Mhm.
right? Like, learn, even if you fail forward, you still grow from it. So, find somebody to look up to, like somebody who's like 2 to 3 years ahead of you. So you want to do what they're doing and kind of like see if you can shadow, see what you can learn, as opposed to like somebody who's been in it for like 10, 15 years. I'm like, well, that's a different path. But 2 to 3 years, that's still catchable, and try to learn from them. But also done is better than perfect. Like you just have to start. The I know I've said it, I feel like a few times, but the leading decision for us is always like, what is the worst that can happen? You start a new venture. For example, for us, like with real estate, what is the worst that can happen for investment properties? Okay, our numbers don't work. Worst that can happen, we have to sell the house. Can we survive that? Yes.
Mhm.
Okay, well then now what is the best? Knowing that I can survive like the basement level of things, the opportunities for skyrise are fantastic. So having faith in yourself, like it's scary to start something new, but growth happens outside of our comfort zone. So if you genuinely have the like, okay, for in real estate, let's say I don't sell anything for 3 months and I don't have a paycheck for 3 months. Can we survive off of just your paycheck? Can we survive the worst that can happen? Yes. Then then there's only opportunity for growth growing up. So it's scary, but I always say, it sounds like doomsday. What's the worst that can happen? But generally it is like, if we can survive that, have so much faith in yourself and know that like you will survive in advance. You learn and you grow. And there's so much beauty in it. And I would have never, like growing up, I was like, nope, I want to be a teacher. I want to be a cheer coach. I'm going to get married. Like that was my vision. And it was a beautiful vision. I wasn't looking for something different. I wasn't looking for something to come, but I'm always open to opportunity and I'm always open to listen to new things. And it was like, if like your ears are closed and you're not even listening, you won't hear it. You won't see it. You won't be open to it. So being open to new things, because there's a lot of hard work. There's a lot of hard work in entrepreneurship, but there's so much beauty and potential. And I am in control now of like my schedule. I went and got a master's degree to get a pay raise. I did not want to be an administrator. No, thank you. Blessed to all those who are. But everyone's like, "Oh, you want to be a principal?" It's like, no, I just want a pay raise. I would like a bump. This is the first job that I've had that like my work, my input is directly related to my output, or vice versa. There's a lot of beauty in it.
Yeah, there is. It's fun. It's a lot of highs, like you're saying, a lot of highs, a lot of lows, but just knowing that. Well, for me now, I couldn't see myself any other way, and it was weird for me because I experienced it, and then I was back into teaching, which maybe I should have left a little bit earlier. But once you experience that
I'm not going to say I
freedom,
told you so, but
I know I was still scared. Actually, I was. You know what happened? I was so busy that summer that it kind of like creeped in, and I got to the first day. I was like, "Oh my god, I don't know if I could do this." Like both, because like
yeah,
every lunch break, I was just on my computer. Every that free period I had, I was making phone calls. As soon as school was over, had my trailer lined up, went to
yep,
jobs. It was a lot, and I coached, and I had a
yeah.
family. Yeah.
Well, and that's, to be honest, like, and I'm always honest, but like, that's the general path of most entrepreneurs. Most of us have we all had W-2 jobs when we started. Is
Mm-hmm.
that weird? I just did a thumbs up and so it came on the screen. I don't know if you saw
Oh,
that.
you
It's
didn't
weird.
press that?
No, it was like, if you do it, I think I've learned this the other day. Like, see, there it goes. Weird. Um, like that's the path of most entrepreneurs when you start, because everybody's afraid to give up that W-2, right? Like you're going to start building the business and still keep the safety net. But then at some point, like the business, you're like, okay, we got to either like jump now and go 2 feet in, or like, ooh.
Yeah.
But that's the beauty of like, I mean, like you are, let me rephrase this. I think you are building a business based on referrals as well, because your customer service and the word of mouth is amazing, but your marketing is on point. I was even driving home on the phone with my mom today and I was like, there's Ryan Symes. He's already got like the windows up. And I mean, your branding and your marketing is on point. But I love that you two are actually going after, like, your ideal client and that's where you're focusing. And I mean, you're scaling massively. And I'm so proud of you and what you have created in this business. It's really beautiful to see. It is fun, but it's because you're putting in the work.
Oh yeah, 100%. You
Yeah,
have to put in the work.
100%.